What's up, everybody? RJ Bates the third here, and I'm sitting down with Burton Alicondo. What's up, man?
Hey, what's going on, RJ? Thanks for having me.
Yeah,
Happy New Year's,
excited
by the way,
for
brother. Happy 2024.
yeah, happy 2024. Excited to have PropStream a part of the Titanium fleet. You're the first time I got to say that, right? Last week I went live on Tuesday talking about I always talk about, hey, stop searching for unicorns, right? We're going to show you which systems to use and how to use them. So every single month, we're bringing in the vendors that we use, PropStream being one of them. We've been using you guys for, I think, like 6 years at this point, which is crazy. And I'm excited to be able to sit down with you, have you come on. Everyone give a shout out to Burton for taking time out of his day, his busy schedule to come in here, provide value. Today, we're going to be talking about pulling lists inside of PropStream. So keep the questions to list pulling. All right. We know PropStream does a lot of other things, comps and other things, but list pulling data, that's what we're talking about today. So Burton, give us some background on like the data that we're going to be looking at and some like, I guess, overview of PropStream and how to best use the data that we're going to be pulling today.
Yeah, that's a really good question. So for those that don't know, quick history, PropStream started like in 2006, and the objective was to become like the middle person. Because back then, investors like yourselves were actually going to the county and grabbing records physically and then bringing them back, right? And so just pulling leads back in the day was like a 24 40 hour thing. You spent like 2 to 3 days doing that. So the company leaders figured, you know what if we created the software where we go get the data, put it in the software, but then add some features to it, right? 17 years later, here we are.
Right.
So our objective today is still the same. We're a multi-source data provider. So there's lots of companies that collect types of data like pre-foreclosures and liens and mortgage data and property info. Our job is to buy that data on your behalf and then make it look pretty. Because I kid you not, the data that you see on paper is not what you see in PropStream. So our job is to not only make it look pretty, but I think that the key important that people forget is that we make the data communicate with one another. That's why when you type in an address and you go in the details, you're able to see the mortgage data next to the MLS data, next to the comps, next to the tax info. Like that was the objective. Because again, time travel backwards, that was like 7, 8 websites you had to be on. So the
Right.
main objective is grab all that data that's out there, make it look pretty, make it communicate, and then let our users have fun with it. And that's where we're at.
Love it, man. I remember the days prior to PropStream being what it is now and all these other data providers that exist nowadays. I mean, I guess I'm aging myself a little bit, but I remember those days of having to go down and get the pieces of paper. And I remember like, because our story was we spent $65,000 in education to essentially learn how to get deals off the MLS. And
Oh
so we
wow.
did that for like 2 years. And then I started hearing everyone talk about direct to seller marketing.
Yeah.
And so then it was like, okay, we've got to do mailers, we've got to do cold calling. And then it was like, we went and we got these like pieces of paper from the county. And it was like, now what? Now what do we do with this? Like, this is, yeah, I mean, it's information. It's so easy nowadays to just get thousands, tens of thousands, hundreds of thousands of records if you want, skip trace it, and immediately be calling, immediately be sending mailers. And of course, back in my
You
heyday,
know,
daily sending text messages.
RJ, I will say, I'll be the first to say, I think you pioneered the change of that. Like, and you probably don't even think about it. Like, I started with PropStream back in what 2013, and this is our product before what you see today. Like, we were a software company. We only had like pre-foreclosures and cash buyers. There was like what you see today is nowhere near where it's at. You know what I mean? Back then, and we didn't even have skip tracing and whatnot. But what's crazy is back in 2013, I mean, we were like, evolutionary, right? Like, oh my God, this company's grabbing data on our behalf. But I will tell you right now, deals were still taking a few days, 2 weeks. Bro, you are literally, and I'm telling you right now, like I think you pioneered like virtual real estate because I've seen what you do, and you are closing deals the same day, which is wild. You
Right.
go in a system like ours and you grab data, and then you grab the contact information, and then you're speaking to the homeowner like the same day and getting contracts signed. Like, brother, I don't know if you realize that, but I put you up there as one of the people that have changed real estate completely. I don't know if
Thank
you
you.
see that, but that's just my opinion on things.
Well, I appreciate that. And I don't ever really think about it because specifically going back to like 2020, when I started doing a lot of these live videos, I remember that the pulling of the data, I was actually afraid to do that live on YouTube and for everyone to see. I would actually do it off camera and prepare for the next day. Well, what ended up happening is as I started doing the lives, I picked some easy locations to start with: Ohio, Missouri, places like that. Well, then as I kept going through the 50-day challenge, I got to some difficult markets where whatever data I pulled didn't perform because it was a difficult market. So then I would have to pull another list.
Right.
And so I started pulling the list live, and people started freaking out. They were like, "Oh, this is the sauce. This is what we needed, man. We needed to see you doing this." And I
That's
was
the thing.
like,
It's always the small things, right?
I know. I was
It's
like,
like that's
"What?"
what we really want to see.
I know. I was like, I thought you wanted to see me like get cussed out by a seller in
Yeah, like
Colorado.
I thought you wanted to see RJ's real talents, which is like
Yeah, I was like,
negotiation and all that good
I was
stuff.
like,
But
"Oh,
no, they want
okay.
to see
Well,
you pull leads. That's hilarious.
let's do that then." So we started pulling the list, and you know, you and I were talking about it. I have another video that I did a couple years ago on how to pull a list, and that video has 11,000 views at this point. And when I
Nice.
went live, there was 14 people watching. 14, not 14,000, not 1,400, 14. And so it's like clearly this is a need. So let
Mhm.
me ask you this: why do you think this is such a need in the marketplace to understand how to pull a list? Because there are so many different ways to do it. So what do you guys see
Yeah.
from PropStream's perspective on why this is such a big need?
Well, I'll tell you right now, you nailed it. I think 2020 was the pinnacle, the change of why being able to understand how to pull your own leads has been important. Remember back before 2020, like realtors and everybody had an office, so your sellers were just going to their office and calling it a day, right? Like they don't want to talk to you guys. When 2020 happened, all those offices came to a close. And so now the homeowner couldn't go anywhere. So what did they start doing? They started searching on the internet. And why do you think iBuyers blew up during that time? Because they were flooding SEOs. Like they were like, put us on top. So these iBuyers blew up. So now not only do you guys, you went from competing against offices that were open to now competing against iBuyers.
Yeah.
So if you didn't understand how to get to the homeowner first, oh my goodness, like game over. Now fast forward, and offices are open and whatnot, but the homeowner now has completely changed. They're not the homeowners from before 2020. These are homeowners that understand internet's there, right? I have iBuyers, I have realtors, I could become my own seller if I wanted to, right?
Yep.
So for me, like I understand that. And this is another thing is something to be aware of. We go to a lot of events, and one of the events that we go to are agent events. And without naming what the agencies were, the events I went to, the underlining tone over the last 12 months is MLS is lacking inventory. And if you're a realtor watching this, you're probably nodding your head like, yeah, he's actually right. MLS is lacking inventory. So what has happened in the last 12 months? Your agents have become investors as well, right? So now they're trying to get in front of the homeowner to offer the homeowner the services of listing the
Yeah.
property. So I'm telling you right now, if you don't understand how to pull data, you're already behind the curve. And then just learning how to pull data, there's also little niches that you have to understand to kind of beat out competition. So for those that are watching, I mean, thank you for being here first and foremost, but I hope to deliver some best practices and hopefully some insight in how to get ahead of the competition.
Love it, man. And last thing I'll say before we just pull up PropStream and we get into the nitty gritty here, Burton, what you just said, man, is so vitally important for everyone to understand. I have been preaching this for the past month because this topic about why have property values increased so much and this theory that it's due to hedge funds. And I have been talking about the fact that no, it's due to the lack of inventory.
Mm-hmm.
This is the reason why prices continue to rise. And then also over the past several years, our interest rates were so low that people could essentially afford a house that they really couldn't afford. And so the prices just continued to increase because houses that otherwise wouldn't have had as many showings and as many offers were getting more. That's my opinion. So thank you for bringing that up and bringing the facts. Hey, you're talking to actual realtors and agents dealing with the fact that, hey, there's a lack of inventory on the MLS. So,
I mean, the facts are there, RJ. You nailed it. I mean, we had 18 months of rising interest rates, and at the same time, housing was increasing as well. Like, it doesn't make sense. Normally, when interest rates climb, houses values should decrease. But what was happening, like you said, was the lack of inventory. So the demand of housing was still climbing, rent was still climbing, right? Doesn't make sense. So now you have housing going up, right? Lack of inventory, and then these homeowners with low interest rates that don't want to sell. You have to understand how to avoid all of that using data correctly. And so, yeah, man, like I think your opinion is right on the spot. And again, you talk to homeowners, you yourself are the real estate professional that I look up to, and you know it. And I don't even think you even read data, read newspaper, but you understand the market like no tomorrow.
I do. I do.
Kudos to you, brother.
It's all about, hey, the real life, right? Not what the news is telling us, but what is actually happening when you're talking to sellers. So I'm excited for what we're about to show everybody because
let's go.
I mean, listen, there's this theory that Titanium Investments and the closers formula, and what RJ does is because he does a lot of these pay-per lead models, speed to lead and lead solo in particular, right? Those are sexy and they're great. And listen, I mean, there's nothing better than, you know, a tired landlord entering his information on your website and saying, I want to sell for 50 cents on the dollar. Yeah, I mean, you can't beat that. But the reality of it is that is a percent of the deals that we're doing. We have always been pulling data. We've always been skip tracing that data, going all the way back to the old days, which we're about to get back into this because I think it's going to be vitally important, pulling data and sending mailers to it. Okay, so let's get into this.
Let's go.
Bring that down. Boom. There's the beautiful prop stream. So first thing, Burton, on this, I think this is important. Maybe you have an opinion on this. I personally have always, when I go to pull data, I have searched by the city. I don't search by the county and I don't search by certain zip codes. I've always searched by the city. So what are your thoughts about that before we start actually pulling a list?
No, I think that's a great idea. I think, again, I think it's individual. I think it becomes preference. Like if you have a team, a few VAs and whatnot, county level is great. You know, at that point, you know, you have more options to go after. But I think if you're going after a city or a zip code, you're kind of, hey, I'm limited to this area. This is the area I want to be in. I'm comfortable in. I think eventually you're going to have to get out of that comfortability. And so I think starting at a city is by far the best way to do it. And again, if a deal is good, really good, you got it on contract, buyers don't care what zip codes it's in. They're going to flock to it, right? So to me, going for a city is a perfect option because it gives you not too many records and not too little records, right? We understand this is a numbers game. This is why we give you 10,000 leads every month. We want to make sure you want to make sure that you're building just the amount of leads. I would say go by the 10% rule, right? If I build a list of 500 people, 50 people are probably going to answer your postcard or phone call. And of the 50, 5 are probably going to want to sign a contract, right? Yep. So just think of the 10% rule. I think it's probably the best avenue to take. And the city is definitely a good range.
So here, going back to the city aspect, my thoughts have always been this. We are nationwide. And so when we talk about cities, like I'm leaning towards my list being in Jacksonville, Florida. It's been a really good market for us. And it's been a while since I pulled there. So I'm leaning towards the list that we're going to pull be in Jacksonville. Knowing that Jacksonville is a good market, if you know that and you know that you have buyers, I am okay with you then expanding out to the county. But I don't like you to pull the county to start with, because instead of getting right inside of the city limits where the vast majority of the houses are going to be, where your buyers are going to want your houses to be, you could get those rural locations a little bit further out where your buyer's like, oh man, that's a 40-minute drive. I don't go that far out. Specifically here in Texas, that is very common with the size of our counties. So that's part of why I think it. So what I'm going to start with is simple, just search of Jacksonville, Florida. Anytime you want to chime in, Burton, and let me know, like, hey, I don't know if I agree with that, but just chime in, okay? So what did we end up with? Right out of the gates, 364,100 unique properties.
Yeah.
Is what popped up. So what I always like to say when I'm pulling a list, and I'm curious about your thoughts on this, the ideal size for us is somewhere in the 2,500 to 3,500 range as far as properties. You have any?
No, that's perfect. I think, again, if we go by the 10% rule, that's 250 to 350 people that will actually see your marketing, right? Because the reality is not all 25 or 3,500 is going to look at your email or look at your phone call. 10% rule. So the fact that you pull that much means 250 to 350 are probably going to react to your marketing. And then of that 250 to 350, again, another 10%, right? That's 25 to 35 people that you're actually going to conversate with.
Right.
So yeah, I think that's a good amount of people to go after. And again, it's not too outrageous. I mean, think about it. If 25 people were to call you today, can you guys handle that? So I think kind of gauge it off that. If you can't handle 25 phone calls, then you might need to add a few more filters or not save the entire list, perhaps.
Exactly.
Maybe just get half of it and call it a day.
All right. So we've got Jacksonville, Florida. We need to niche this down a little bit. So I know you guys have this quick list choices over here. How much do you recommend messing around with this? I don't know.
I recommend if you're like starting off or if you're transitioning from one product to the next product, start here. This right here, I say duplicates or mimics the traditional method, which is what RJ was talking about, the back in the day method, right? Which you had to go to the county and grab a list of records. So that's the same thing. You're going to just pick a list here that has some level of motivation. Again, we have 19 options. Not all of them are going to be motivated sellers. Like, I'm not going to go into quick list choices and pick cash buyers. Like, I'm not going to call cash buyers and be like, hey, you got houses on discount.
Right.
That is not a list you want to choose. But in that drop down, maybe like a tired landlord or tax delinquency, right? You want to find someone who would possibly entertain the idea of listing their house or taking a cash offer to solve their problem.
So just because, got to go back to my TV days, what is a zombie property?
Great question. So this is a term that's been around for a while. It was kind of like a higher echelon thing, but a zombie property is really a pre-foreclosure that's not answering their mail. So it slams county records with postal service records together. Because we collect both of those, we're able to combine the two. But that's what it is. Pre-foreclosures that are not answering their mail. The reason I'm only going to get an idea as to why they came up with this idea. Not a lot of homeowners understand what you know. And so when a homeowner gets a notice of default, to some homeowners, that's it. They've lost their house right then and there, right? And so some will just disappear. They'll go out of state, out of county, or just live in with somebody, right? So the whole idea, they zombied away. Like no one can find them. They kind of walked off. That's, I think, where the term came about.
So on these quick list choices right here, which, by the way, I don't know why when I click on this, it doesn't show the drop-down menu. So I'm just going to read them off real quick. On market, vacant, liens, pre-foreclosures, auctions, bank-owned, cash buyers, high equity, free and clear, bankruptcy, divorce, tax delinquencies, flippers, failed listings, senior owners, vacant land, tired landlords, zombie properties, and then pre-probate deceased owners. Those are our quick list choices. So I clicked on zombie properties, narrowed my list down to 140. Do I need to click on anything on these other, like, for example, MLS status? I don't want to pull a list of anything listed on the MLS. Should I click no on this? Or
absolutely yes. Yeah. I always say the second step, if you're taking the traditional method, which is the list is the first thing you have to pick. The second thing that should follow it all the time is making sure that it's off market. And so you did the right thing. And, as a little bonus, if you want to or not, right below it, RJ, is that MLS status bar. Yeah. And never listed We introduced that about a year ago. And so again, there are some of these houses that listed like in February of last year. And some of those homeowners want that February price of last year, right?
Right.
So if you want to talk to a homeowner who hasn't reached out to a realtor, hasn't been listed in the last 8 years, click on that option. And the idea here is that I'm speaking to a homeowner, right? Zombie property homeowner who his house hasn't been listed on the MLS in the last 8 years, meaning they haven't reached out to an agent yet. I'll probably be the first person to speak to them about this property.
There you go. So just by clicking zombie properties, we went from an astronomical number to 140. Then we said MLS status, no. It took us to 134. And then we said never listed. It took us down to 79. Okay.
Yeah.
So let's say I want to take all 79 of those. Boom. I selected them. Now I want to add to a list. I'm going to need to create a new list. I'm pretty picky about how we name our list. Okay. I believe in having a process that is a habit that everyone understands inside of your business. So one of the things I want to establish with the group is this is how we are going to name our list, because it's something that is easy to duplicate over and over and over again. So Jacksonville, Florida. Okay, so the city and the state hyphen acquisitions. So what are you pulling this list for? Is this for acquisitions or dispositions, right? Because we're going to talk about cash buyers here in a second. Then hyphen, what is the motivating criteria? Right now, it would be zombie properties. So we would call this zombie properties. And then hyphen, today's date. Boom. We save that as a list. Now we know that we have those 79 properties saved in Jacksonville, Florida acquisition zombie properties on January 10th, 2024. The reason why I do that is because if you notice, I have no prior list of my prop stream. The reason why, I'll bring us up for this real quick. I had about 300,000 properties in my prop stream this morning. I deleted all of them. Here's the reason why. And I didn't delete the data. I just deleted them outside my prop stream. The reason why is because I don't know what the hell they were. I had lists like 76179-1. I had Steamboat Rock, Iowa buyers. Don't know when I pulled that. Don't know why I was buying that. You know, it didn't explain what it was. So the naming of the list is vitally important so you understand. I'm a big advocate of this. If you've been following me for any time, you've heard me talk about this for years, where it's like have a system in place, a process in place to naming this. So I added that to my list. Now let me bring up my screen. Is there a way for me to tag that as zombie properties so I know that they're zombie properties? Or how would I know that that's why I pulled that?
Yeah, so when you go into my properties, just like you're about to do right now, it's now labeled on the left-hand side. So marketing lists, you now have it labeled exactly how you named it. Yeah.
Gotcha.
One thing I also want to emphasize, if we go back to the search page, the thing you have to understand, guys, is like once you save a list, it's static, meaning it's going to stay 79 properties from that day on, regardless if, like, let's say tomorrow a new record comes in, right, matching the same criteria. So rather than searching every day the same criteria, because that's going to get tiresome, you see that save search button at the very top right, that orange one, further far right. Yeah, if you click on it, guys, this will actually allow you to save the filters that you just applied. So you could call it the zombie, Jacksonville filters or whatever it was. Then you could apply details to it. And then the main important reason I'm bringing this up is at the very bottom. It's the last thing that you can choose, which is, hey, how about you send me an email when a new record shows up? So that's the very last option. Send me an immediate email, daily or weekly. And so the idea here is rather than you coming in every day to search it just to see 79 properties every day, we'll email you when it changes. So you'll get an email that says, hey, you got new records. Then you'll come in. And then all you'll have to do, I think you might have had a hyphen in your save search. That probably wouldn't allow it.
Okay.
So after you do that and save your search, it's going to go in that folder just next to high equity on the map, all searches. And so the concept here again, guys, is let us notify you when new records populate rather than. All right,
So
I'm
now
going to
it'd
save
be
it.
under all
Now
searches.
it goes in there. Correct. There it is. So watch. Go ahead and hit clear all on at the very top, RJ. Just let's say you logged out and logged back in and you forgot what your filters were. All RJ has to do now is hit all searches and then clear all, or hit that button. I'm sorry. Just hit the There you go, and there's results right there.
Love that. Dude, that's sick because, like, for me, I want to almost rinse and repeat how we're pulling our list over and over and over again. Right.
Oh, well, then look at what Patrick just put in the comments, because that's something we could do in PropStream.
If you save the search criteria minus the target city, you could quickly apply said filter to any city.
So let's show that really quick. So go to the search page, go ahead and hit clear all at the very top. And then rather than pulling up a city, what you want to do is go straight into the search filter. So we're going to avoid searching a city, go straight into search filter and do everything that you just did. So zombie properties, off market or on market, no, never listed. And then go ahead and hit apply at the or close at the very bottom. Okay, so these filters are now locked in. Now go ahead and hit save search once again. And let's call it the zombie properties template, right? Okay, so not only can you save a blank template and use it in every city going forward, but here's a cool thing too, before you hit save. The third option, it says include on home screen and replace. So let's click on that. And let's say we don't use bank own at all. Let's go in the drop-down menu and select bank own. And now hit save. And here's the cool part. It's going to take your template that we just created. Again, it's a no city template. We didn't apply city on purpose. It's going to take that template and now replace the bankruptcy box or the bank owned box at the top. You see your boxes now there, RJ? Now check this out. Now search any city. Just go from one city to the next city, and it's going to just do it for you automatically. So when you go to Fort Worth, when you go to Vegas, that filter, like you can literally replace all of these boxes with your own criteria. It's a pretty like unused feature. Not too many people know about. But yeah, again, it's a pretty solid thing to do. So if you always pull your tax delinquencies the same way, if you pull your zombie properties the same way from one zip code to the next, you might as well just create your own template and then just start punching in the cities.
I mean, think about this, Burton. From my perspective, I mean, this is our home market, right? We always talk about being nationwide virtual wholesaler, but the market that we've done the most deals is right here in the Dallas-Fort Worth Metroplex. But, dude, this Metroplex is huge. I mean, from Denton to Fort Worth to Weatherford is a good market. Granbury is a good market. Burleson, Waxahachie, McKinney. Like, dude, my son plays hockey out in McKinney. Like, that's part of the Metroplex. You know what I'm saying? I mean, I live over here where I'm driving him all the way here to play his hockey games. You know what I'm saying? So I could go through here and I could just start adding. I mean, look, Dallas 9, Fort Worth 2.
Oh, absolutely. Just city after city and click and save, click and save. Now you have 15 lists in like a matter of less than 10 minutes.
Right.
So yeah, definitely consider taking that route. Again, what you have to do is apply your filters first without putting a city, then hit the save search and then replace that box. Now, in the event you're like, hey, you know what? I don't want that box anymore. RJ, go to all searches.
All searches, right?
Yeah, and then if you scroll down, you'll find the bank own option. And if you highlight it, there's a plus sign on the left side. So if you click on that plus sign, you can replace it again. So what you're going to want to do is
select where.
Yeah, so select zombie properties and then hit apply. And now zombie properties goes back into all searches and bank own goes back into that fourth box.
I don't want MLS.
Wherever one you want. Yeah.
I got rid of MLS. MLS is just depressing. That means 4,000 realtors got to them before we did.
Before you did. I like that.
Yeah. That brings me down, right? Burton. I don't want to be brought down. All right. So I like that. But listen, I got 79 properties in Jacksonville, Florida, right? So that's That's like a little baby list. It's like what I would refer to as like a niche list, right? So if I come back in here and I go back to Jacksonville, Florida, and I decide I want to do something a little bit bigger here. Let's see. We've got tired landlords. My favorite seller is the tired landlord, right? I want to talk to the guy. It's like he answers the phone and he goes, yeah. And I'm like, hey, you looking to sell, your shit box over there on Main Street? And he's like, yeah. I'm like, how much you want? And he's like, it's a piece of shit. Take 25 grand. I'm like, what's going on with it? And he's like, it's vacant and I don't want to fix it. That's my dude, right?
Yep.
That is my guy. So I want to talk to him. So I want tired landlords. Obviously, do I even need to worry about owner?
No. We took care of that for you. So tired landlords, for those that don't know, is already going to have these two filters: non-owner occupied, right, which is what you were about to do. Hit no. I mean, you could do that now. It's going to stay the same number, so it's just a same thing. And then minimum 15 years of ownership, right? Woo! So minimum 15 years of ownership, and you can go beyond that if you want. You can go to ownership info and do 16 years minimum, 17 years, but non-owner occupied and minimum 15 years of ownership. And I love what you did already. You did on market no and never listed right off the bat. You already have those good behaviors.
So is there a place where I could change how many years they've owned it? Because I want this to be a larger list.
Yeah, absolutely. Go to ownership.
Well, actually, real quick, I guess let's just see. Tired landlords, not listed, never listed, right?
Mm-hmm.
So that's giving me 50,000 properties.
Yeah, correct.
Yeah. Okay.
Well, see, here's the thing too. You might want to pay attention to. We collect a lot of data, not just residential. We do commercial and then warehouses. Like you see on the right side, number 2 is commercial. Number 3 is a warehouse. So we definitely want to make sure we specify the class and property type. So you want to click on residential and then immediately go to property types on the right side and then choose single family. Now, what you said earlier, your type of seller that you like, the dilapidated property, they don't want to do any remodel. What I would take advantage of right now, RJ Bates, is the year built. I would go to year built and maybe put a max, like, hey, don't show me anything after 1990. I want things that at least have 20 plus years on it, right?
So the minimum,
even applying a year, or max actually. So it doesn't show you anything after 1990. So show me all the houses 1999 or earlier with the tired landlord. That's residential single family. And then now we're down to 11,000. So we shaved off nearly 40,000.
So another thing that I like to do, specifically when we're doing like cities, is to avoid the super like ghetto houses that have no value. I like to put a minimum value for the property to eliminate all of the very low value houses.
Ooh, I love that. And actually that plays, I think, in the same area, there's another filter that's going to play a vital role in what we're doing. That can be found, RJ, in the valuation and equity filter section. So the very top one, estimated value. Let us know what minimums you want and even maximum. You have to understand, if you don't put a maximum, you might see $1 million house in there.
Right.
So definitely want to make sure you tell us what your range is.
So look at that. That right there, what we've got, you can see it. Tired landlords, residential, single family, 1990 or earlier, never been on the market, and estimated value 100 to 250,000. So what I've always said about when I pull these types of lists is to narrow it down. It's given me 6,591 houses, and I said my desired size list is 2,500 to 3,500. So what I would do to toggle that would be I would narrow my range down.
Yeah.
And also, Burton, this is a huge part of this. I'm actually going to bring this up for this. This is a huge part of why I love this filter when you're pulling a list. What is the number one thing people struggle with and need more training than anything is comping properties. Cassie went live like 3 weeks ago for like 3 hours.
Cassie, the comp queen, man.
And
Dude,
her
she knows her stuff.
viewership was going up at the 2-hour mark. I was slightly offended. I was like, what is happening right now? This is comping, right? But what does the estimated value do? If you narrow it down and you say the estimated value on my list is 150,000 to 175,000, well, guess what? The vast majority of your after repair values should land somewhere between 150 to 175,000. It pretty much almost dummy proofs your ability to comp the
Yeah,
property.
that's so true. Like, again, it's wild. It's reverse engineering comping, essentially. RJ, I do want to bring something up that's, I think, very important in this area, and that is applying your estimated equity. It's the
Yes.
right side, third down. Again, I don't know what you guys know. And again, if you know tons of different strategies, then maybe this is something you can ignore. But if you're, let's say, a wholesaler or a fix and flipper, and that's exactly what you do and you don't do anything else, then got to make sure you have equity. The last thing I don't want you to do is call someone who needs your help, but they're upside down and you can't give them that cash offer to help them out. So make sure you apply equity. That will get rid of anything with low or negative equity that you don't need. Again, if you're a wholesaler or a fix and flipper.
So there's real quick. If y'all, while Burton was talking, if you were paying attention to what I was doing, I was messing with the estimated value. And to Burton's point, I just plopped in minimum 50% equity.
Yeah, there you go.
Right? So we got to have a minimum of 50.
Yeah. And then I think the last thing you brought up, or you had a question earlier that we kind of overlooked, was the years of ownership. So if you go to ownership info, again, Tired Landlords is 15 years minimum. But if you wanted to override that, years of ownership is the first option. So if you wanted to do 20 years, you can type in 20 in minimum. It's going to override that. It won't do less than 5 years, RJ, or 15 years. Because again, Tired Landlords is a minimum 15 years. So if you're going to override it, it has to be more than that. Did you want someone with at least 5 years instead of 15, RJ?
Well, my thought process there is I don't really care how long they've owned it as long as they have equity.
Oh, I like that. Okay, so if that's the case, then what you want to do is you want to actually go to the quick list choices and remove Tired Landlords. So you actually want to click on the blank option. So keep it blank. Then you're going to actually manually do this. So owner occupied at the very top, hit no. Okay, so those are your absentee owners. And then now you can do 5 years in the years of ownership. Because if you have the Tired Landlord selected, it's going to ignore your 5 years. It's going to give you 15.
Look at the size of our list, Burton.
Yeah, that's perfect. Oh, and one last thing.
699.
Same concept to the estimated value that you and Cassie came up with. I always tell our users, you guys get to control who's going to call you back. And that's going into ownership info and telling us the owner type. So if you go to ownership info and you say, hey, I want individual owners, well, guess when you market to this list, who do you think is going to call you back? Individual ownership. Right. So in ownership info, you can control owner type. Now, I'm not saying you shouldn't call LLCs. I'm just saying, again, if your whole concept is, the person calling me needs to be the decision maker, then I would start with individuals and then maybe expand to corporate later if you want. But
so there you go. That knocked us down. That took away 1,000. And I think that's very important for what you just brought up, because the skip tracing in LLC is basically a myth, right? Like there is no such thing as like skip tracing in LLC. I've learned this the hard way, right? Everyone came out and said they now had skip tracing LLCs, and then it basically came out like it's kind of just guessing, right? So you're lucky if you're talking to like a registered agent. If anyone has ever set up an LLC, they realize that registered agent is definitely not the person you want to be talking to. So in this case, right, I'm now at 1,684. So this is a real list that I'm pulling that I'm going to skip trace, and I'm going to give it to my VA to cold call today. Okay.
Ooh,
so
nice.
that's not a big enough list for me. I don't like that. I want to give them at least 2,500. So what am I going to do? I'm going to go back to valuation and equity. Okay. And I'm going to say, let's go up to 222,000 for titanium. What does that do? Boom, 2,460. That's the magic number. That's what we want. So I got my size list. So I'm going to say unique properties. I'm going to take all of those, add to a list. I'm going to create a new one. Okay. Jacksonville, Florida, hyphen acquisitions. And then the difference here is the motivating criteria. So what I'm going to call this is tired landlords. And then today's date. Boom. That is how we are going to pull these lists over and over and over again. The key things to take away from how we're pulling those lists is the toggling of the estimated value, toggling the years of ownership, and also you can play around with the equity percent. But realistically, I don't know if I really want to talk to someone that only has 30% equity. I mean, when I'm pulling data and I'm trying to talk to someone, I understand that there's the methods of you can do that to get sub twos and things like that. But
Right.
for me, what I am trying to it's already a struggle enough to get a hold of these people. Hope that they actually have a house that they want to sell. I want to make sure I'm maximizing every little 12 cents that I'm spending on skip tracing. Let's just make sure we're getting the people that actually want to sell. So, or can sell to us where it could be a wholesale deal. So that's how I'm navigating that. Does anybody have any questions about that initial list? Let's go back through here. Burton, while I'm looking at the questions, you can answer this. Are there any enhancements coming out on the mobile app anytime soon?
Yeah, actually, we're working on a few. As you guys saw, we did a UI interface uplift, so that PropStream looks slightly different. We did that kind of mid-November, late November. Some of that's going to convert over to the mobile app, so just look out for some UI adjustments, and then some data sets that we have on the desktop will also transfer over to the mobile app. So yes, just don't have the ETA readily available in front of me, but there will be mobile updates this year.
Marco asks, what if I pull a list 1 month, say vacant properties, and then export it, and then next month I want to pull the same list? How can I export just the new properties instead of pulling the whole? Well, I would say you wouldn't save it to the same list. You would save it to a new list, right?
Correct. Well, two things there. Marco, first off, we don't count duplicates against you. So if you save 123 Main Street today, and then next month, you build the same list or even a different list, and 123 Main Street's also on that different list, it's not going to count against you. The only time it will count against you is if the deed changes, right? Because at that point, it's a whole different ownership, right? So no, it won't count against you. Now, our system is very literal, right? And we're working on this, but right now it's very literal, meaning if I add some filters and I get 1,000 results and I save that, 1,000 results are saved. And then if next month, let's say I use the same filters and there's 1,100 results now, right? 100 new results have populated, and I check all 1,100 off and I save that, our system's going to save all 1,100 to that new list. So two things there. The first 1,000 won't count against you. Only the new 100 will count against you. If you save it to the same list, only the 100 new ones will be added to that same list. A lot of people don't like adding it to the same list, though. They like adding it to a new list. Totally get it. If you add it to the new list, go to the very far right of your My Properties results. There's a column that says marketing lists. I'll tell you how many lists that address is in. What you'll do in the blank box at the top is punch in the number 2 and then delete everything with the number 2. And then what you'll be left with is everything with the number 1, which is all the unique properties from the new search.
My opinion on that, Marco, is that sometimes we get lost in the weeds about making sure that we're pulling lists and we're talking to the new ones. I mean, I'm gonna be honest with you. If I pull a list and I skip trace it, I'm using it. It's mine. We're gonna abuse it. We are going to talk to those homeowners multiple times, and I don't care. I mean, I'm paying a VA $7 an hour. If they call Burton about his house you're in sunny California, right?
Yes, sir.
I mean, we call you about your house in California. You're probably going to be like a typical California homeowner and not nice to me. and then I'm gonna
You
call
have my
you.
shack for $1 million.
There you go. And then we're gonna call you again the next month, and you're still not gonna be happy. And then we're gonna call you again, and we're just gonna keep calling you. I mean, I'm sorry. That's what we do.
That's the reality. Money's in the follow up. You're
I
absolutely
mean,
right about that.
I'm not worried about my VA calling someone now. Is you're doing it yourself, you might be concerned about your time. But I also wouldn't only pull a list of vacant properties either. Like that to me is like, and maybe you were just saying that, but I would make sure we're niching it down a lot more. Because I will say on this tired landlord list, I like having liens. I like calling vacant properties. I like calling the zombie properties. I like calling the pre-foreclosures. I like calling the auctions. So what I would do there is decide Jacksonville, Florida. What property do I want to sell? Do I want to sell the 150,000 to 160,000 property? And then I would just pull all of the auctions, all of the pre-foreclosures, all the zombie properties, all the liens, all the vacants in that price point with at least 50% equity, and that would become my list.
That is smart.
So that way I'm making it pretty dummy proof for me as an acquisitions person. I know my ARV is probably going to be somewhere between 150 to 160. And then when I'm calling sellers, what's my second question I'm asking them? How much do you want for the property? I'm hoping they say 75,000 or less. I just know that right out of the gates. This is what makes me the king closer. It's not because I'm actually smart. It's just because I make it really easy.
No, that's freaking genius, bro. Like, not too many people have ever mentioned that type of strategy. You guys just got a fat gem, and if you didn't realize it, then yeah, I don't know why you're even here.
I mean, I'm just saying. Will PropStream have a dialer anytime in the future? Can I just say, can I answer this? I don't even know the answer. For it. I hope the answer is no. Is the answer no?
Yeah, right now, no. Yeah, we've looked into it. There's so many things in terms of regulations when it comes to that type of marketing, right? We've seen it, right? SMSs got regulated. Before SMSs, what was it? Ringless voicemail. That was big.
Oh, yeah.
That got regulated. Remember that?
Yep.
So, yeah, that type of marketing gets kind of tricky. And again, when we go down that route, which as a company we've thought about, it essentially opens up a can of worms for us because we're a data company. We're not trying to get distracted, and we know we're really good at what we do in the data world. So our marketing will evolve, but yeah, don't. That's probably not going to be.
They all know the answer, bro. They hear me talk about it on every damn video. So if they've been here before, they've heard me talk about it. It's that damn little hedgehog behind me. You guys have a hedgehog concept. You have determined that you are going to be great at data, and that is what you are going to be great at. And you're going to ignore all the shiny objects, and that's why you guys are good at it. That's it. And this is what I tell people. Don't try to be a wholesaler and a flipper and a landlord because you're going to suck at all three. Learn from my mistakes. That's what we did. And so I say it all the time. Choose what your hedgehog concept is. I just made everyone go in the group and say, write out, what is your hedgehog concept and what ships will you be sailing from the Titanium fleet? What are they going to be? A lot of people said, I'm going to be a virtual wholesaler and then I'm going to use PropStream. Okay, great. Here you are. You know what you're doing. You're a wholesaler. Now we're showing you how to actually use PropStream. So someone asked in the comments if I would show how to pull that or to add that filter in again or that list. So I'm going to pull another list here real quick. Let me get rid of that banner. So I'm going to do the same thing, what I just talked about. Okay. So I'm going to clear everything. So I've now decided that I want to do pre-foreclosures. So I'm going to search Jacksonville, Florida. I'm going to do this one faster, so make sure you're paying attention, and it's always saved. You can go back and watch it. So I'm going to go to filters. I'm going to do owner-occupied. No. I could do vacant pre-foreclosures. That could be sexual, but we'll wait on it. Okay, residential, single-family homes. Okay, MLS status, no. Never been listed. Give me ownership info. I want individuals because I don't want LLCs. And then my valuation. Let's do exactly what I just said. I want 150 to 160. Okay. And then I need my estimated equity to be 50% or more. It's probably going to be pretty small little list. That's it.
Click
right?
on pre-foreclosure at the top.
And then I've got, whoa.
There you go. Well, actually, go back to the filter, RJ. Hold on. You forgot to put pre-foreclosure. Go back to filter, and so redo your filters again. So owner.
Oh, okay.
No. Yeah,
I got you. Okay, so no. Okay, that got me down to 545. Actually, I don't care if they're owner occupied. Let's do any.
Dude, yeah. I heard someone said one point, if you're a pre-foreclosure, whether you're there or not, you need my call.
Yeah, exactly. So occupancy, I don't care about that. Let's do residential,
single family.
I'm still at 2,200. All right, we're doing good. Not on the MLS. All right.
Never listed was another one we
never listed. 1,300. Ooh, look at that. 21 to 13. A lot of
actually in this scenario, RJ, you could probably not even select never. I mean, if you're in pre-foreclosure, you're in pre-foreclosure. Like whether you were listed in the past or not, like, yo, you're in trouble. You need my call, right?
Agreed. But we'll come back to that. That will be one that we can toggle. I want to see how low this gets. Individual, we go from 13 to 11. Okay, and then valuation. Because valuation, we need at least 50% equity, right? 900. And then I said I want to narrow this down super, super low on 18. So I think you're right. Let's go back to we don't care if it got listed.
Yeah, because if you were listed a year ago, great. Yeah, but
we're still only 22 properties. But here's the good thing about this. That is not that bad because we've got 97 auctions that we can eventually niche down and see what we can add. Remember, I've got my tired landlords already at 2,500. So essentially what I would do is I'm going to take these 22, add them in as a new list. So I'm going to skip trace my zombie property list. I'm going to skip trace my 22 pre-foreclosure list. I'm going to skip trace my tired landlord list, and I'll go do the same things for auctions. I'll do the same thing for liens. I'll do the same thing for vacant. And then that's my overall list inside of PropStream for Jacksonville, Florida. And so then
that's a good job. You're looking at a good like 5,000, 6,000 leads right there collectively.
Yeah, exactly. And so that's really good. That's a great market for us. It's a really solid motivating factors for us to have our cold callers calling on. And with those saved searches right there, I mean, that's great. The only problem I see with the saved search is that each market is going to have a different estimated value.
Correct.
Like if I go pull a list of Portland, Oregon, the estimated value is going to be completely different than me pulling a list in Detroit, Michigan.
Oh, you nailed it right on the head. I think at that point, you kind of need to understand, what part of the markets that you're trying to focus on. And if that becomes the case, then I would say maybe just loosening up your values. Like, hey, don't want anything lower than 50K. Don't want anything higher than 30K. And that way, whether you're in Jacksonville or one market or other, you have at least a little bit of the wiggle room. But if your values are, hey, they have to be between 150 to 170 in this market, then you might need to have multiple save search, like the Jacksonville template, the Denver, Colorado template. And the only thing you're changing is just that estimated value.
Exactly. Robert, you wanted me to repeat the gem, so I'll give it to you one more time. When you were setting your estimated value on a list, okay, and if you can narrow that down to say 150,000 minimum and 160,000 maximum, when you're talking to your sellers, you pretty much already know where after repair value should land. I'm not saying you don't comp properties. Okay. You still have to comp because the estimated values are not perfect. It's essentially an algorithm that's telling you what they think it is. You still need to comp.
The best analogy I heard. It's like your credit score on your bank app. Like it's close to it, But you got to go to the 3 credit bureaus, which is essentially, if you want the real value, go run the comps. But these estimated values are kind of like window shopping.
I literally just posted a reel this week where someone was asking me, do you just go off the estimated value? And I'm like, no, I do not. You still have to comp. But knowing that my list is so niched down on estimated value that if I'm on the phone with a seller and the seller says I want 150,000 and I know it came from this list, then I know they're probably wanting full retail. If I know, if I ask them how much do you want for your house and they say 75,000, I know we're on to something. We're probably sending a contract in about 4.5 minutes, right?
Yeah.
That's why I go through that. That's why I love narrowing down the size of my list with that estimated value part of it.
You're one of the few to do that. I will say, in all my years of working at PropStream, I've never heard anybody utilize it that way. I mean, they've only used it in the sense of don't show me anything more than this, or don't show me anything less than this. But the way that you're using it, RJ, kudos to you, brother. That is a clever strategy.
Well, Bert, it comes from like experience of
absolutely
on the phone, brother. I mean, dude, when you do this and it's like I just pulled a list. Literally at 10 a.m. I pull a list, and then I'm on the phone with those sellers at 2, 3 p.m. And then you start realizing my NRV was 155, 152, 160. It was like, yeah, no shit it was, dumbass. You're the one that pulled the list and you set the estimated value for it. Like, of course it's 150 and 160. And then I was like, I'm on to something, So,
dude, if anybody was going to figure that out, definitely you. I remember watching part of your 50 days in 50 states like that. Yeah. That was wild. So yeah, again, I think you figured something out, and that's amazing, man.
So someone asked a question about vacant land. That could just be one of your filters of property characteristics. Instead of selecting single family, we could just go down here and select.
Yeah, it's actually under classifications. If you go to classifications,
got it.
We have a separate one called vacant land. And then if you go to property type, the challenge with property type is there's so many different vacant land labels, right? So this is where you got to be careful. There's vacant land general, there's vacant land residential, commercial.
I mean, let's just go to where most people are going to want it, residential vacant land.
Yeah, and then it looks like there's no pre-foreclosures that fit that criteria, but there are 15 residential vacant lands that are between the value of 150 and 160 with 50% in equity or more. And again, vacant land is probably going to have different values than houses, so you might need to make those estimated value adjustments.
You would obviously go back in and redo all the filters to figure out what vacant land, but it's the same process for vacant land. It's just about making sure that, like Burton said, your estimated value is correct, right? Making sure that there's equity there. You could probably get land with a little bit less equity in there because there's always the possibility of, hey, I'm buying the land, 40% discounted, but the opportunity for what it could be worth if we develop on it or something like that is still exists.
Ooh,
and true. As well as the possibility to do creative terms on vacant land is far exceeds anything that you could do on single family residential. So last thing that I want to go over with you, and then we'll let you go, Burton, is cash buyers. Everyone wants to know, like we always talk about, hey, this is the sexy shit, right? We're buying houses, we're talking to motivated sellers and stuff, but there's a lot of people that can't afford Investor Lift, which is what we use for disposition.
Good product. Shout out to Robert.
Yeah, bro, he's
you're a good guy. If you guys don't follow Robert, you guys are missing out. That dude is a genuine dude, and really great product that he has. I love the dude. Really good guy.
Yeah, he's awesome, and he'll be a part of these weekly calls or monthly calls for Investor Lift.
You guys should tune into that one. Yeah, this guy Robert to me is a genius, like in casual clothing, right? Like this guy, you would not think how intelligent this man is until you start speaking to him. So if you guys haven't registered for that one, definitely register to see Robert speak, because he's a really good guy.
When I got my contract in the Closers Olympics, Investor Lift was like the premium diamond sponsor or whatever. And so he was like, hey man, for Investor Lift's sake, like we need to sell that property that you got under contract. So me and him went live for 4.5 hours using Investor Lift, and I was doing the dispositions, and he was essentially coaching me on how to use the product. And it's amazing because he has a pretty simple product, but from his mind, I mean, dude, it was literally like watching Elon Musk tell you like how to use a Tesla. I mean, it was like,
exactly.
Like, holy cow.
No, that dude is a really smart guy, and I love what he's up to. So,
all right, so let's get into this. Okay, so I'm gonna clear everything. Let's stick in Jacksonville, Florida. So we're gonna go Jacksonville, Florida. So I need to go to
cash buyers. Yeah, go to filters
cash
and
buyers.
then yeah, you can do that either or. You can click it here first, or you can go in the filters and then select it in the drop-down menu. Clicking it there automatically selects it in the drop-down menu. So
do I need to? Okay, so I've got cash buyer selected. Now, what do I do to niche this down?
Right, so the first thing I would recommend is think of it like a dating game. Okay, apples to apples. If you have a single-family property, it's 3 bedrooms and 2 bathrooms, built in 1960, then that's what we need to go look for. We need to find a buyer who's interested in single-family properties, 3 bedrooms, 2 bathrooms minimum. That's built between, let's say, 1950, 1970, right? Like, again, there's buyers that only buy new buildings, and there's buyers that are comfortable buying properties in the 50s and 70s. So make sure whatever you have on contract matches up with your buyer. Leave room for, leave a little wiggle room in the year built square footages and whatnot. But this is perfect, right? I need a cash buyer who does residential single family, minimum 3, minimum 2 bathrooms, and their year built 1975 and 1990. So that's done. Next, RJ, is going into ownership info. And this is important. We don't want to be calling buyers like number 1 from 2006, dude. That's wasted time, right? Because now we got to call them and figure out, are you still buying 16 years later? No, we're not doing that. So we're going to go to the last sell date filter and click on the first calendar box. And we're just going to go back a year. So change that 2024 to 2024 to 2023 and just click on 1. And there you have it. 241 cash buyers in the last year who buy single family properties, 3 bedrooms, 2 bathrooms, built between 1975 and 1990. And then here's one last recommendation. This is just my 2 cents. We have a filter there called numbers of properties owned. And it's the third left down. Okay, this is just my suggestion, okay? You could run with it. You don't have to run with it. I suggest considering looking for someone who has a portfolio, like a minimum 2 or 3 properties. Why is that? Again, there's different type of buyers. There are buyers who only do fix and flips, and there are buyers that will hold on to properties for the long-term investment. What I'm trying to suggest is maybe showing your contract to someone with a portfolio as well. That way, if they see it as a fix and flip, they see it as a fix and flip. But they might also see it as a long-term investment and add it to their portfolio. Make it number 4, number 5. So you're giving your contract more options versus just showing a fix and flip or your contract. And that's all they do. That's just my 2 cents there.
I mean, this, to me, how solid of a list does this feel when you're saying cash buyers, single family, minimum 3 bed, 2 bath, 1975 to 1990 in the last year, and they own 4 or more houses.
Yeah, they're active with portfolios. Like, these are people that you need to add to your list, or people you need to talk to and be friends with. That's ultimately the suggestion there.
I love it. So the only thing that I would ask is, or owner type, we should also do individuals on this, right?
Yeah, you could do individuals if you want to speak to individuals. Again, maybe corporations, if the deal is good, corporations could be good. I think another thing to your point, which you probably can also consider, is the last sell price too, right? Again, there might be buyers who don't buy anything at a certain price point. So I've seen people say, hey, I need a buyer who's comfortable buying last sell price between 50K and 400K or whatever it may be. So I've seen people do that. But we got to be careful there. And I say that because I know you're in Texas, RJ. That would not work in Texas because you guys are a non-disclosure state, right? So you can't even put a value because they won't show you that. So if you put a value while you're searching in Texas, all of that would just disappear. So just FYI there.
Just looking there, I said max 125,000. it got me down to 18 cash buyers in the last year that own 4 or more properties. That to me is like, you should be able to find your buyer.
Oh, 100%. They're in
If
the
you've
neighborhood.
got a house that you're trying to sell for 120,000, then you know you probably got your buyer right there. Now it's your responsibility to be able to contact that cash buyer, right? And then what do we name that list? Jacksonville, Florida -dispositions -cash buyers -today's date. So then you know, hey, you pulled this, you know it's for dispositions, and you know it's cash buyers. The other thing that I would also recommend that I don't ever hardly hear anybody say is when you pull your list of cash buyers, you should also be running acquisitions to them as well. They are more than likely going to be tired landlords, themselves. And a lot of times, because they are cash buyers, they will own things free and clear. And it's great for getting properties on seller finance terms.
That's clever.
So we have gotten a lot of deals from our cash buyers list running it through acquisition. So one of the benefits of having a team of virtual assistants is that you can test things out like this. So it's saying, hey, we need to sell this property in Jacksonville, Florida. So we pull a list of cash buyers. We find our cash buyer. We sell the property. 30 days later, we turn around, we take that exact same list, we give it to a different virtual assistant, and then we call and ask them if they have a house that they want to sell. And then we buy a house from them too. So
double dipping.
Exactly.
I like that.
Marco says, how fast does PropStream update their data for pre-foreclosures and probates from the moment the county puts it public, and when does PropStream show that data?
That's a great question. So the process of hygiening a record can take like anywhere between 3 to 5 business days. What I mean by that is like when the county records it, someone actually has to go get there and grab the record, and then it's on an Excel sheet, and then it has to look nice for us to upload it and ingest it, right? It could take quite some time. But if you wanted to know like when the last time a category updated, RJ, can we do this? Go ahead and hit clear all, actually. So go to the search page, hit clear all. Search Jacksonville as an example. And if I wanted to know, okay, I'm in Jacksonville, when was the last time the pre-probate updated? So go to the filter, click on pre-probate, which is our very last option in the drop-down menu. Okay, so once we have that, go ahead and hit close. There you go, RJ. So RJ already knows. We're going to hit this little tab, and there's a column on the far right side. It's the 4th one on the far right. It says last updated. At the very top, RJ, those column headers. Scroll up. Yeah, last updated.
Trying to figure out how I can get over there. Last update right there.
Yeah, there you go. Hit it twice. And there you have it. So the last time the pre-probates were updated in this market, because again, no two markets update on the same day, right? You got different vendors that collect at different dates. But the last time the pre-probate was updated in this market, at least, was on the 1st of December. And so if you wanted to know pre-foreclosures, you do the same thing. Click on pre-foreclosures, click on that tab, and then organize last update. And so as RJ is going to do right now, he's going to show us. And again, deceased owners and pre-foreclosures are 2 different data points. So while the deceased owners were updated on the 1st, the pre-foreclosures were updated on the 28th. Right. So I don't want everybody thinking, oh, data updates all on the same day. No, that's not how data works. We as a company update every day because what we get, we're going to push in the next day. But it's what we get that comes in on a different frequency. And the best way to figure it out is use this last updated column, or we talked about this earlier, just save the search and set up notifications. That way you don't have to try to figure it out. We'll just tell you when something new appears.
There you go. Listen, guys, I don't want to take up too much of Burton's time. One of my promises to him, I keep this around an hour. So we already
Oh, dude, I can talk for hours about data too. I'm like you, bro. I love this stuff.
Man, I'm so excited for this year, having you guys come in once a month to do these types of trainings. I mean, dude, I learned so much about the system in just a few topics that we talked about today. I feel like me and you could probably talk about utilizing the system for 12 hours, and I still wouldn't know every little idiosyncrasy that it does inside of it. I'm excited about what we're going to be able to showcase to the community this year. Before we let
Yeah.
you go, any final thoughts or best tips for these PropStream users?
Yeah, I would just don't get too comfortable because we have huge updates, new data sets coming in, new filters coming in. So it's going to evolve this year. So that's all I'm going to say. So look out for that. If you want to kind of follow all the release updates and whatnot, just make sure you guys follow our social media or like and subscribe, our YouTube channel. But yeah, new things will be coming this way, guys. Look out for that.
Love it, man. Burton, thank you so much for your time. Guys,
you,
if you
RJ.
enjoyed today's video, make sure you give us a like and then also give a shout out to Burton in the comments. Guys,
Give a shout out to RJ. This guy's pioneering real estate investing. I tell you guys, to me, he's the guy that took real estate and moved it quick. Like this guy, if you guys don't watch him close deals in the same day, I don't know what you guys are here for. But thank you, RJ, for having me, man. I'm really honored to be
absolutely. Here. And also the PropStream swag. Not only that,
oh, hey,
I got the I Love Data on too, baby.
Like that. That's so cool, man. One of my favorites.
Love you guys.
All right, take care, guys.